Azure is a cloud computing platform provided by Microsoft. Now it's basically an online portal through which you can access and manage resources and services. Now resources and services, nothing but you can store your data and you can transform the data using services that Microsoft provides. Again, you all need is the internet and being able to connect to the Azure portal. Then you get access to all the resources and the services. In case you want to know more about how it's different from rival AWS, I suggest you to watch Azure versus AWS video that you can clearly tell how both these cloud service providers are different from each other. Now, here are some things that you people need to know about Azure. It was launched in February 1st, 2010, which is significantly earlier than where AWS was launched. It's free to start and has a pay-per-use model, which means, like I said before, you need to pay the services you use through Azure. And one of the most important selling point is the 80% of the Fortune 500 companies use Azure services, which means that most of the bigger company of the world actually recommend using Azure, and then Azure supports wide variety of programming languages like C Sharp, Node.js, Java, and so much more. And another very important selling of Azure is the amount of the data center it has across the world. Now it's important for a cloud service provider to have many data centers around the world because it means that they can provide their service to a wider audience. Now Azure has 42, which is more than any cloud service provider. Now let's talk about the Azure services. Azure services have 18 categories and more than 200 services. So we clearly can't go through all of them. It has services that cover compute and machine learning, integration, management tools, DevOps, web, and so much more. You are going to have a hard time trying to find a domain that Azure doesn't cover. So and first start with compute services. First is virtual machine. With this service, what you are getting to do is to create a virtual machine of Linux or Windows OS. It's easy to configurable. You can add RAM, you can decrease RAM, you can add storage, remove it all. Off it is possible in a matter of seconds. Now let's talk about second service, cloud service. With this, you can create an application within the cloud, and all of the work after you deploy, it's deploying the application that is taken care of by Azure, which includes preserving by the application, load balancing, ensuring that the application is in good health, and all of the other things are handled by the Azure. Next up is Service Fabric. With the Service Fabric, the process of developing microservice is greatly simplified. So you might be wondering what exactly is a microfabric service. Now, microfabric service is basically an application that consists of smaller applications together. Next up is functions. Now with the functions, you can create an application in any programming language that you want. Another very important part is that you don't need to worry about any hardware components. You don't need to worry about what RAM you require or how much storage you require. All of that is taken care by Azure. All you need is to provide a code to the Azure and it will execute it, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Now let's talk about some network services. First up, we have Azure CDN or the Content Delivery Network. Now the Azure CDN service is basically for delivering web content to users. Now this content is of high bandwidth, can be transferred or can be delivered to any person across the world. Now these are the actually a network of servers that are placed in the strategic positions across the world so that the customers can obtain this data as fast as possible. Next up is we have Express Route. Now with this, you can actually connect your on-premise network onto Microsoft Cloud or any of the services that you want through the private connection. So the only communication that happens is between your on-premise network and the service that you want. Then you have virtual network. With the virtual network, you can have any of the Azure services communicate with each other in a secure manner in a private network. Next, we have Azure DNS. So Azure DNS is a hosting service which allows you to host the DNS or domain name system in Azure. So you can host your application using Azure DNS. Next, we have storage services. First up, we have disk storage. With this, you are given a cost-effective option of choosing HDD or solid state drive to go along with your virtual machine. Based on your requirements, then you have a blob storage. Now, this is actually optimized to ensure that they can store massive amount of unstructured data, which can include text data or even binary data. Next, we have file storage, which is manager file storage and can be accessible via SMB protocol or the secure message block protocol. And finally, you have queue storage. Now with the queue storage, you can provide durable message queuing for an extremely large workload. And the most important part is that this can be accessed from anywhere in the world. Now let's talk about Azure services. Firstly, we have application development. In the application development, we can develop an application. It could be a web application or any application. Then you can test the application, see how well it works, and you can host the application on the internet. And you can create a virtual machine like I mentioned before. With this service, you can create a virtual machine of any size or RAM that you want. You can integrate in the sync feature. You can collect and store matrices, for example how the data works and how you can improve on it. You have virtual hard drives, which is the extensions of the virtual machine. These services are able to provide you large amount of storage where your